Today is an important day. It's a special day. It marks the 50th anniversary of Special Olympics. 50 years ago today, there was a track meet held at Soldier Field in Chicago for people with disabilities. It was the first of its kind with intellectual disabilities. First of its kind. And Special Olympics was born. Now, I talk a lot about individuals with intellectual disabilities because, you know why? They deserve our respect. They deserve our support. And Special Olympics done a great job on both fronts. But it's also a great day because I have a good reason to eat donuts. Tim Hortons across the country, if you're not aware of this, are celebrating the 50th anniversary with special donuts designed by Special Olympics athlete Savannah Lucier from Grand Prairie. Proceeds are going to go to Special Olympics across the country. So I hope you take a moment, drop into Tim's, and order a donut. Or 7. I'll probably do 7. The theme today, though, around the country and around the world is a day of inclusion. And there's been lots of progress over the last 50 years, thanks to athletes with intellectual disabilities. I mentioned our donut designer, Savannah, who has Down syndrome, and it doesn't let it stop her. Lots of progress in the last 50 years. But progress is made thanks to the parents, the brothers, sisters, other family members. It's thanks to literally tens of thousands of volunteers, coaches, staff, and thanks to individuals and companies who donate and support. I'm especially thankful to our Money Talks friends like Neil McIver at McIver Capital, Jim and Nikki Barkasy at the Newton Animal Hospital, Andrew Rulin, Integrated Wealth Management, and of course Mike Levy and Rob Levy, John Murphy at Performing Equity, Paul Dixon at Resource World Magazine, Jeff Olin at Vision Capital, Leanne and Mike Karolinko at Studio City Rentals, and others, and I'll mention them in a bit. But progress has been made, but there is so much more to do, and that's my point right now, and I'm going to give you an example. Today's a day of inclusion. Well, my question is, talking about healthcare, how many times do you think governments consider the impact of policies on people with intellectual disabilities? Now, I want to be clear. This is my opinion, just my personal opinion. I do not speak for Special Olympics. I simply am a volunteer there. So don't hang this on them. But my opinion is that too often the impact of policies on people with intellectual disabilities isn't even considered. Otherwise, why would people with intellectual disabilities not get the same medical care as you and I do? And make no mistake, they do not. I mean, do you understand? I mean, I had to get sensitized to this. I had to learn this. People with intellectual disabilities can't advocate for themselves. They don't go to a medical professional and start saying, I have a problem with my eyes, or my leg, or my teeth. No, that doesn't happen. Worrisome is that the adult population with intellectual disabilities have a shorter lifespan. And I'm willing to bet, here's my point, for all the Premier's meetings on healthcare, the challenge for people with intellectual disabilities may have never been discussed. Because otherwise we wouldn't get this. It should be unacceptable to Canadians that people with intellectual disabilities do not have the same level of medical care as I do, as you do. This is despite, by the way, some good reports recently. I'm happy to see them. Ontario Ombudsman in 2016, as an example. Another by the Institute for Clinical Evaluative Sciences in Toronto. The conclusion was just what I've been alluding to, that people with intellectual disabilities are not well served. The medical profession isn't trained, by and large, to deal with people with intellectual disabilities. I'm going to give you another example on this day of inclusion. When the minimum wage laws were enacted in Ontario, I'd bet my house that the impact on people with intellectual disabilities, well, disabilities in general, was never discussed. Think about this. There were tens of thousands of hours of debate, and I'll bet the impact of the sharp increase in minimum wage on people with intellectual disabilities was never discussed. They weren't in the picture. Same goes for the Alberta government's rise in minimum wage. Same goes for the BC government. I can't think of a time when it was discussed in the media. I can't think of it being mentioned by advocates, groups like Organized Labor, not even on the radar. And that's got to change. In Ontario, the government actually eliminated an exemption for organization providing jobs to the intellectually or physically disabled. I mean, I'm just still shaking my head at that. Matthew Lau reports that according to the Globe and Mail, the immediate impact of that sharp rise in minimum wage just this year, is another one coming next year, that most of these organizations stopped hiring people with cognitive disabilities. They stopped hiring, but it was worse than that. Community centers, other nonprofits were forced to let go of their existing disabled workers. I mean, the parents formed a protest. Nothing happened. I mean, I can get into a lot of aspects of this, but my point today is that This is not on purpose. They're not sitting there saying, gee, I hope I can make it tough for people with intellectual disabilities. My point is that people with intellectual disabilities are so marginalized, they don't get considered. And that's where progress can take place. With your help. Let's push for further progress. This should be unacceptable in Canada. It is to me. Let's do more than talk the talk. That's our modus operandi. It's time for action. And I hope we do it. This, the 50th anniversary of Special Olympics. The next 50 years, we should figure out how we want it to do. And also, by the way, I came back and I said, and it starts there because I can't tell you how much this meant to me, that people who listen to Money Talks jumped in and helped. Ron Roddick, Discount Hawaii Car Rental, Kelly Wong and Jerry Au at Spitzer Golf Products, Eamon Piercy Group, Eric Coffin, you know him from HRA Advisors, our own Joseph Schachter Energy Report, Tyler Bullhorn at Stock Scores, Ryan Irvine, Keystone Financial, Ozzy, of course, Victor, Jatinder Ray of Response Advertising, Anthony Beyruti, Venue Kings, Kevin Lemole of Emergent Environmental and Rail Services. All these people did something. I mean, that's the best part. That's how progress is made, is people step up and actually do things. And there's many more. I mean, Chris Metcalf, Stu Rogers, Neil Moody, Mike Cowden, Tim Collins, Mark Dabliski, Scotty Grubb, Paul Beatty, David Morgan, Martin Mirabille, Vanny Bourbon. I mean, it's great. It's a fantastic list.